yes, you get the 30% pullbacks that happen in your face in minutes. But we're all debating whether we get a left translated cycle or a bubble cycle that goes on further than we imagine. None of us know that yet, but we're at the sweet spot. Global liquidity is picking up, should continue going forwards. Business cycles should pick up. So this is the time. This is the great time, and this is the time when ETH outperforms Bitcoin, Solana outperforms ETH. A bunch of alts will outperform Solana. So it's obviously it is the great opportunity. It's the kind of the big trade is now on.
Today we have Real Vision CEO Raoul Pal giving us his updated prediction for crypto, how the upcoming cycle will be different, and why the recent crash is a massive investment opportunity. With crypto and technology being the biggest investments this year, Raoul Pal says that he's remaining bullish on digital assets after significantly increasing his position size during the last bear market. Former Goldman Sachs executive gives a portfolio update on which crypto assets have the biggest upside in the coming months, and why this year, more than ever, we'll see massive capital pouring into the space. With major pension funds and institutional investors on board for the coming cycle, Raoul Pal predicts that crypto is on track to be a $10 trillion digital asset class. Pal says that this cycle will separate itself as devalued fiat currencies will push more adoption into the crypto market and bring in more capital than we've ever seen before.
So all financial markets work the same way. You put capital in, and it's coming into Bitcoin. It then flows into the less liquid assets, and they rise more, right? It's just all markets work the same way. So it comes into Bitcoin, it pushes up the other assets. So the next phase is obviously the ETH ETF. ETH is really an interesting dynamic because the more ETH you buy, the more the supply is reduced. With about 28% locked up in bloody staking, I mean, it's going to get quite a disruly market. It's just going to be very price gappy to the upside and probably the downside. So that's going to get fun. Solana has been like the main adoption horse because it's going up the adoption curve, so it tends to outperform. So I just think you just have that perfect risk curve where Bitcoin starts the cycle well, ETH then starts to outperform. If you look at the ETH Bitcoin chart, it looks like it should start to break higher over time. And that's pretty much what happened. When was it? About September 2020. No, it was like summer 2020. We saw the same kind of thing. So we should see that continue. And then Solana, if I look at the Solana ETH chart, it's about to break higher again. It's like this perfect little flag pattern, should keep going. So it looks as is, and as I've kind of thought all the way through, I think nothing changes. Solana is ETH of the last cycle, right? This is a proper blockchain that's getting full adoption. So this is a real thing. Firedance is the kicker. So we've got some real stuff happening here. So in terms of price targets, I mean, who the hell knows? But if we kind of replicate what ETH did last cycle, that was a 45x from the low. So you get somewhere like about $500. If I look at the other charts, I get somewhere between 500 and 1,000. And it just depends on the structure of this market. If we get a bubble cycle, it'll go to 1,000. If we get some sort of left translated, it gets to 500. It's something like that. As we all know here, price targets are pretty useless, but because you need to see the structure and nature of the market when it happens. So it's all well and good us having an idea now, but we'll feel it and know it when it's happening. And I'm still trying to figure out, I'd love to hear your guys' views. So here's my odds. My odds is 60% this is kind of a normal cycle. I would say the last cycle we had wasn't. It was stunted. The last leg was stunted. We should have had another leg higher. We didn't get it. 2017 was probably more of a normal crypto cycle. It's like 2013. They get quite blow-offy top at the end. There's a full bubble cycle that could be kind of la land, which I would give 20%. I give 60% to a normal cycle and 20% to a left translated cycle. My fear of this left translated cycle is we kind of meme coin it so much to the moon that the whole thing collapses under its own weight before we actually get the app layer fired up and people are actually doing stuff. That's the one fear, that we overhype it. We have not
Yeah.
seen on the media side the rush. It's not happened yet.
Embracing an unyielding enthusiasm for the crypto realm, Raoul confidently predicts that explosive growth is looming on the horizon, as BlackRock and many other crypto giants are doing just that. Pal reassures that a long-expected surge awaits.
You're right. I mean, look, there's some anecdotal evidence, yes, but we're not really seeing a mass participation. And, you know, but it is early. It's early in the cycle. We forget because, look, we were all quite lucky in getting this cycle quite right. So we feel like we've been in it all the way through. But don't forget, last cycle, most of us were buying now. Obviously, the price is further this time. So it's different. So I don't know. And let's just keep an open mind. I think Michael's view is also right. I just don't think we know. So we just have to keep a very open mind, which is why I'm trying to use a probabilistic framework and just keep adjusting as we go. My setup is I'm really 95% just in my core positions, and then 5% of silly stuff, of which I've got some stuff that's too small I won't talk about, and then I've got Whiff, and I've got Bonk, and I got Doge. So I've got the dogs, because the dogs run first. This is the perfect point for the dog cycle. So you do a bit of that for the fun of it. But I'm not very good at this part of it, because you always end up and look back and you're too late into a cycle. You look back, you got this shrapnel of useless shit. I mean, if I look back at my wallet last time around, the decentralized and sandbox and all of this stuff you get stuck with from narratives that you overstayed in, that's the issue, is not overstaying in this stuff. Some of this might well do, right? Doge, stuff like that. No, it's tokenized culture now. It's folklore, right? So I don't really have an issue with it. There is a world where it's possible that Twitter uses Doge as a payments platform, and then look, it's possible, but it's not something I would bet on. This is the hard part. People don't realize the hard part is actually the last part of the cycle. It's the hardest part. It's not buying the cycle, it's not running the cycle, it's the end. Because if it finishes early, you kind of get caught holding the bag. If it finishes normally and you've got PTSD, you end up selling a bit too early. That's not the worst thing. If it has a super cycle, I mean, I remember selling Bitcoin in 2017 at like 2,500, thinking I was great. Went to 20,000. It kind of 10x'd in the next 5 months. So and that's really difficult to deal with. So last time I didn't sell at all, and this time around, I've been thinking this is I will just take some off for lifestyle chips probably at the end of this year, just in time and not price.
I like
just
that.
Because there's some lifestyle chips I want to take off, and then I'll run it. And if it ends up being a bubble cycle, I'll take some more off. If it's a normal cycle, I'll just run it. And the other strategy I've got is, and Benny's aware of this, I've been talking to him about this, is like, I'm now starting to think that the top of the entire investment pyramid is the super high-end art NFTs of the OGs, and that's where you put savings into. So you just keep peeling off savings, putting them into that. There's Ovi with a auto glyph behind him. That's how I'm thinking of this. So I've actually been already buying NFTs because they're still cheap in cycle terms. So I've been buying some Xcopy and some Beeple and stuff like that. End of year I'll take some off regardless of price. This is the big macro view, and obviously I've understood NFTs for a long time and where they fit in, but I didn't have the macro. I even understood how to price them on a macro framework, but a bigger thing is that if I'm right, this space goes from 2 trillion to 10 trillion to 100 trillion to 200 trillion. Right, that's what I kind of think. The magnitude of wealth that this space creates over the next 10, 20 years is the largest the world has ever seen. In the shortest period of time, wealth gets recycled. Now, if you ask anybody, I've thought about this. I'm like, okay, what do I do at the end of this cycle if I take a ton of money? If I took all my money off the table, what would I invest it in? That's a really fucking hard question. But, you get to the idea that in a digital world, in a world where a lot of people have created wealth in this digital world, art and tokenized culture makes a lot of sense. And if you look back over the periods of fine art, if you look at why is Damien Hirst a very valuable artist in the UK? Well, I was that period of late 90s in the UK, and it was fucking wild. It was the cultural epicenter of the world. And Damien Hirst was tokenized culture. The Blur, there were Oasis, all of that was that one thing, Fatboy Slim, it was all that. Damien Hirst is that. Warhol is that. Basquiat's that. Banksy is that. They're all that. So we will all look back on this period of time, and these things will be very valuable to us.
As an investor, Pal has made many diverse moves, with crypto in the primary position in his portfolio. Technology ranks as the second fastest horse, yielding significant returns, proving that his strategy is a recipe for success. Emphasizing that during bull cycles driven by adoption and speculation, cryptocurrencies tend to outperform liquidity measures. Based on his findings, Raoul Pal strongly advocates for the strategic investment in cryptocurrencies, specifically highlighting Bitcoin and Ether as promising assets. He sees them as assets that surpass the performance of traditional financial institutions' balance sheets and provide a means of protection against currency debasement and the inherent flaws of the current financial system. What do you think about Raoul Pal's investment strategy in the coming months? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. We'll see you in the next video.